Good morning, my fellow Thomasians. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Maayong buntag sa tanan. Today, we are gathered as one community, united in our pursuit of veritas in caritate, truth in charity. We recognize that true wisdom flows from the harmony of faith and reason, and that charity is the perfection of our knowledge and vocation. In a world marked by uncertainty and complexity, institutions are called to be both prudent and proactive. Internal control serves as both safeguard and guide, ensuring integrity, promoting accountability, and enabling institutions to navigate risks while pursuing their mission. With hearts aligned to truth, integrity, and service to the nation, let us now stand in honor and reverence for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. Please be seated. His Excellency Most Reverend Marcelino Antonio M. Maralit Jr. D.D., Bishop Diocese of San Pablo. Very Reverend Father Richard G. Ang O.P., Rector of the University. Reverend Father Isaias Antonio D. Chonco O.P., Vice Rector of the University. Reverend Father Roberto L. Wanzon Jr. O.P., Vice Rector for Finance. Professor Cheryl R. Peralta, DRPH, Vice Rector for Academic Affairs. Reverend Father Janelle N. Abogado, OP, Vice Rector for Research and Innovation. Reverend Father Pablo T. Tiong, OP, Vice Rector for Religious Affairs. Members of the Board of Trustees. Members of the Board of Education of the Dominican Province of the Philippines. The Council of Regents, the Academic Senate, our Professores Emeriti and Dean Emeritus, academic and administrative officials, academic staff, alumni, support staff, and students of UST Manila and UST General Santos, researchers, officials, and staff of the UST Manila Annex in Santa Rosa, representatives from the UST Hospital, Central Seminary, and Santissimo Rosario Parish, esteemed members of the Thomasian community, a pleasant good morning once again. The longest serial publication of the university is the collection of inaugural addresses delivered at the beginning of every academic year. The collection includes discursos from 1866 up to the present. The tradition is as old as the secondary educational system in the Philippines and the UST Museum. The practice of beginning the academic year with an opening address has been an essential part of the opening exercises in the universities of Europe, probably since the establishment of higher education in the 11th or 12th century. The universities must have adopted the custom since its foundation to conform with the tradition of the Dominican Houses of Studies of starting every school year with a conference delivered by one of the lectors called Lectio Prima, or first lecture. This practice was, in fact, mandated in the UST statutes of 1785, and I quote, "We ordain that the rector, the doctors and masters, as well as the students, must gather in the university, where a Latin address will be delivered by the rhetoric professor, if the professor accepts the task, or a doctor or master appointed by the rector, and by no other person." End of quote. In the spirit of truth and service that animates the Thomasian mission, we welcome this year's inaugural lecturer, a respected scholar, leader in the field of accountancy, education, and governance, whose influence spans the nation and the ASEAN region. She continues to serve as Dean of the UST-Alfredo and Velayo College of Accountancy, a position she held since 2013. In the role of Dean, she provides visionary leadership, upholds academic excellence, and nurtures the professional and ethical formation of future certified public accountants. As an esteemed academic and practitioner, she has authored 9 accounting textbooks published by PME Publishing, which are widely used in accountancy education across the country. She is renowned for her practical insight and exceptional clarity in presenting complex accounting concepts, making her works valuable resources for both students and educators alike. She has significantly contributed to national policy as a member of the Commission on Higher Education's Technical Panel for Accountancy and the Professional Regulation Commission's Center Career Progression and Specialization Program, Credit Accumulation and Transfer System Committee. She also serves as chair of the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants Academy Committee and actively supports sustainability efforts through the Philippine Sustainability Reporting Committee under the Financial and Sustainability Reporting Standards Council. She also serves as an academic program assessor for the ASEAN University Network and promotes cross-border collaboration as chair of the Teaching and Learning Committee of the ASEAN Accounting Education Work Group. In recognition of her exemplary contributions, she has received numerous accolades, including her induction into the Global Accounting Hall of Fame in 2017, the title Pillar of Accounting Education conferred by the National Association of CPAs in Education in 2021, and the Most Outstanding CPA in Education Award from PICPA in 2022. Most recently, in 2024, she co-founded Empleo Kaliwan Consultancy Services Incorporated, a firm specializing in finance, taxation, and education consultancy. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Commerce cum laude from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, a Master of Business Administration from the University of the East, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Business Management from Manuel L. Quezon University. To mark the academic nature of the opening of the academic year 2025-2026, we gather this morning to listen to and reflect upon the inaugural address titled Internal Control, Key to Effective Enterprise Risk Management. My dear administrative and academic officials, academic and support staff, students, alumni, benefactors and friends, members of the Thomasian community, it is my distinct honor and joy to introduce our inaugural lecturer, to be escorted by Professor Cheryl R. Peralta, DR, PH, Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, and Reverend Father Franklin F. Beltran, OP, Regent of the UST-AMB College of Accountancy. We now call Professor Patricia M. Empleo, PhD, Dean of the UST-Alfredo M. Velayo College of Accountancy, to deliver the traditional Discurso de Apertura.
Thank you, Father Louis, for the generous introduction. Very Reverend Father Richard G. Ang, our dearest Father Rector, Reverend Father Isaias Antonio Chonco, our Vice Rector, Reverend Father Roberto Luanson Jr., OP, Vice Rector for Finance, Reverend Father Janelle Abogado, OP, Vice Rector for Research and Innovation, Reverend Father Pablo Chong, OP, Vice Rector for Religious Affairs, Professor Cheryl R. Peralta, Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, Reverend Father Louis R. Coronel, OP, our Secretary General, Reverend Father Edmond C. Nantes, OP, General Santos Associate Vice Rector for Administration and Finance, Honorable Maria Teresita Dimaculangan, Member Professional Regulatory Board of Accountancy, Mr. Benjamin Villacorte, Chairman, Philippine Sustainability Reporting Committee, Ms. Geraldine Apostol, Executive Director, Philippine Institute of CPAs, Ms. Diane Nicole Francisco, Vice President, NACPAE, Mr. Alfred A. Velayo, Treasurer, AMV Foundation, Inc., Assistants to the Rector, members of the Academic Senate, members of the Council of Regents, fellow administrators and academic staff, our support staff, of course, our most precious stakeholders, our students, gentlemen and women, good morning. There is truth in saying that once you enter the University of Santo Tomas, you will become holy, because you will say a lot of prayers. Students, because of their multiple assessments, always come to the church for prayer, of course. Same is true with our academic staff. And I am no exception. When I became Dean of the UST-AMV College of Accountancy, I quietly prayed not to be chosen to be an inaugural lecturer during my term. God actually answered my prayer because my official term ended last July 31, 2025. So I am now delivering a lecture, the inaugural lecture, during an extended term. Proof that God answers our prayers, but sometimes sprinkling a little sense of humor. I had previously planned to explore accounting for sustainability, but with numerous training programs already conducted university-wide and establishment of the University Sustainability Committee, Hi Father, I feel confident that through our collective efforts, we will continue developing and implementing strategic sustainability practices and eventually prepare our sustainability report using an appropriate framework. After thoughtful discussion with our college administrative team, using the term of Father Louis Coronel this morning and yesterday, kami po ay nagnilay. At sa aming pagninilay, we agreed on a timely and foundational topic, internal control, key to effective enterprise risk management. Now, you might ask, why this topic? Consider this. Have you ever been mildly annoyed when asked to state your full name and even your birthday before a blood extraction for your complete CBC or complete blood count, even though the medical technologist is already holding your patient's chart? Or do you find it inconvenient to wait for two different one-time passwords, one sent to your registered phone number and another to your email, even after entering your online banking password? My friends, be thankful. These are control activities in action. Giving your full name before a blood draw reduces the risk of receiving someone else's laboratory results, whereas multi-step authentication protects your account from unauthorized access. These everyday examples remind us that internal controls, although sometimes tedious, protect us from far greater risks. Just as those everyday safeguards protect individuals, internal control systems also protect institutions, especially complex ones like universities. We turn, therefore, to a well-established model to guide these systems, the COSO Integrated Internal Control Framework. In the context of a university, internal control isn't just about financial accuracy. It's about safeguarding academic integrity, protecting data, ensuring compliance, and supporting sustainability initiatives. When properly understood and applied, the COSO framework becomes a powerful tool for aligning our practices with our values. Here's how our discussion will unfold. We begin with the introduction of the COSO. COSO is the Committee on Sponsoring Organization of the Treadway Commission. Then we will go to the definition, bibigyang kahulugan po natin ang internal control as defined by the COSO. Then we will explore the components of the internal control based on the COSO framework. And we will examine how these are being applied within our university complex. Toward the end, I will invite you to reflect on key questions in addition to the key questions already raised yesterday, and consider how these components can support our sustainability practices. COSO, that's the acronym for the Committee of Sponsoring Organization of the Treadway Commission, which was established in 1985 by 5 giant global accounting bodies with the collective purpose of preserving the integrity and quality of financial reporting. The first integrated framework was actually developed by COSO in 1992, but this had undergone series of revisions already because of COSO's experiences in working with it. The most recent version is the 2013 version, which is still effective until today. Based on the COSO's 2013 definition, internal control is a system affected by an entity's governance body. Any level of management, so upper level, middle level, lower level, and other personnel, meaning it will go down to the functional level, to provide reasonable assurance regarding achieving operational, reportorial, and compliance objectives. Applying this definition in the context of UST, our institution's objectives are based on our mission and vision, integrating the 9 key directional areas and the FAD Director's 7-point agenda. At the same time, at the unit level, these are our key performance indicators that have been identified meticulously and is still anchored on our vision and mission, our SDAs, and the FAD Director's 7-point agenda, and integrating our institution's key values of competence, commitment, and compassion, and our institutional motto, truth in charity. So internal control is continuously monitored. So because of changes in the society or changes in the social environment and even changes in the learning characteristics, in the characteristics of both our staff and our learners, the internal control must be continuously monitored for effectiveness and improvement. This is implemented at the firm level, the division level, the unit level, and the functional level, thus involving everyone in the organization. Applying, therefore, the COSO framework to risk management in a large university such as the UST, with around 40,000 students and 3,000 staff, requires a structured approach to ensure the holistic development of both our learners and staff and other stakeholders, and at the same time, achieve operational efficiency, academic and financial integrity, and adherence to prescribed policies. Let us now explore each of the 5 components and reflect on how they shape our institutional resilience and accountability. The first component is control environment, which sets the foundation for an organization's purpose through standards, processes, and structures. It sets the tone from the top. Please take note of the preposition, it's tone from the top and not tone at the top, because tone at the top stays at the top, whereas tone from the top will have to flow even up to the functional level. So the tone from the top reflects leadership values and integrity and shapes roles, accountability, and ethical culture. A strong control environment includes clear risk management policies, codes of conduct, and leaders who model responsible behavior and promote ethical practices among staff and students. The COSO framework's second component is risk assessment, which requires institutions to systematically identify and evaluate potential events that may impact achieving objectives. So these potential events that may impact achieving our objectives are what we call risk. Risk assessment means spotting internal and external risks, judging how likely and harmful they are, assessing how fast they can arise, determining what level of risk is acceptable, and planning how to respond effectively. A large university such as UST faces a wide array of risks that span multiple domains. Strategically, it must navigate shifting enrollment patterns, ensure program alignment with student and market and societal needs, and contend with intensifying competition from public universities, private institutions, even open universities, and foreign institutions. Operational risks further challenge its efficiency, manifested in scheduling bottlenecks, underutilized spaces, and cumbersome administrative processes. On the financial front, universities rely heavily on tuition revenues, making them vulnerable to unstable funding streams, delayed grant disbursements, and sometimes procurement decisions that may lack prudence. In addition, compliance and legal risks arise from potential data privacy breaches and failures to meet accreditation standards or uphold research integrity. Technological vulnerabilities such as cyber attacks and underused digital tools stemming from insufficient training or unwillingness of the staff to undergo training introduce further complications. Cultural and reputational risks also loom, as controversial incidents or negative media attention can erode public trust. Lastly, and because this is UST, we are subject to environmental risks, including natural disasters and flooding, and laboratory hazards, which add another layer of complexity to our institutional resilience. These types of risks help us better understand why there are 8 subcommittees recently organized for the Central Crisis Management Committee. This brings us to the COSO framework's third component, control activities, which control activities are all about the policies and procedures to mitigate the assessed risk effectively. Controls may be preventive, detective, and corrective controls. Preventive controls stop risks before they happen. Usual examples are our ID systems, the simple logbooks, mental health programs, and the recently concluded faculty workshops on ethics. Detective controls catch issues as they occur, such as surveillance cameras, plagiarism detection tools like Turnitin, safety audits, surprise cash counts, and surprise inventory counts. Corrective controls among the three are the least ideal because the risks already become the problems. So Corrective controls fix problems after they happen. But do we still have to address them? Of course, because if we do not address, then this will open the minds of our stakeholders that we are amenable to such types of risks. So these include disciplinary actions, counseling, audits, system upgrades, even retraining, policy changes, and in very rare instances, organizational restructuring. So, as I have said, this type of risk is the least ideal because they signal that the earlier controls failed, making therefore a strong SWDB, SWDC, faculty tribunal, discipline committee, and CODI essential. The fourth component in the COSA framework of internal control is information and communication, which strengthens transparency. At the university, this includes memoranda to circulate approved policies, developing real-time dashboards to monitor key risk indicators, establishing structured communication channels to share risk-related information among stakeholders, and conducting training workshops on compliance, ethical standards, and emergency preparedness. UST's move toward digital transformation, evident in initiatives like the intended rollout of the Oracle Fusion and other real-time dashboards, signals a readiness to adopt a communication system that tracks and communicates enrollment trends, budget utilization, resource requisition and acquisition, and wellness programs. The communication flows in vertical, horizontal, and even diagonal channels among service and academic units. The fifth and last component is monitoring, which involves continuous evaluation and adaptation to ascertain whether the first four components work as intended. Monitoring activities include periodic internal operational audits done by the OPQM and internal financial audit by the Internal Auditing Office. They also include third-party assessments and accreditation such as the ISO, the AUN, and our local program accreditations. Also, they include external financial audit done by engaged third-party auditing firm, gathering feedback through surveys, and communicating the results to the concerned units, and using benchmarking data to validate control effectiveness and achievement of set objectives. Now that we have explored the 5 components of internal control under the COSA framework, let us take a moment to thoughtfully reflect on each one, examining how they interconnect and shape a resilient and accountable organization. On control environment, as leaders, not only the leaders at the top, but also the academic leaders and the leaders in the service units, can we model the values we want our stakeholders to imbibe? What formal policies ensure that competent and committed leaders are appointed and retained in key positions. What features of the organizational structure support the accountability of all stakeholders inside the university, including the exercise of values-based decision-making? On risk assessment, are our objectives co-created with our stakeholders for a shared vision and mission? Are we able to foresee the significant risks that might affect our units? What practices ensure that we can identify and assess risks at the unit and university levels? On control activities, how do we ensure that the appropriate controls are designed and implemented across the university? How do we address major and minor control deviations? How do we integrate our control consciousness with our stakeholders? On information and communication, how do we communicate our values, expectations, risks, and strategies to our stakeholders? How do we gather information from the relevant internal and external stakeholders? How do we balance confidentiality and transparency when communicating with our stakeholders? On monitoring activities, how do we integrate the monitoring of our policies and procedures into our standard practices? What do individual units do after the management review meeting conducted by the OPQM? What structures and practices do we have to ensure that we learn from our shortcomings as individuals, separate units, and as a university? These questions require reflection and, of course, discussion for collective decision-making at the unit and at the university level. And because I intended originally to explore on the university's sustainability practices, allow me to align the 5 components of the COSO internal control framework with the university's commitment to environmental, social, and governance initiatives, particularly as they pertain to sustainability practices and the preparation of its sustainability report. Beginning with the control environment, UST demonstrates leadership and cultural alignment through its adherence to Catholic social teaching and integral ecology, values that are embedded in our institutional policies like the integral ecology policy and reinforced by the active engagement of academic, administrative, and religious officials. The recent establishment of a sustainability committee reflects this commitment in planning, implementation, and monitoring. Building on this foundation, the risk assessment process enables the university to proactively identify and evaluate environmental threats such as energy inefficiency, water scarcity, and waste generation, thereby informing strategic responses like the GRT 76, the solar panel project, the rainwater harvesting systems, and plastic waste reduction efforts. Social risks, particularly those linked to supply chain practices, would prompt a reflection on ethical procurement and bolster purchasing protocols. Complementing these efforts, control activities which translate policies into practices through specific measures such as banning single-use plastics, distributing reusable utensils to our students, and embedding sustainability into academic curricula ensure daily behaviors align with long-term goals. To foster shared understanding, information and communication strategies such as stakeholders forums, just like what we did yesterday, and staff-wide training on sustainability and UN SDG serve to reinforce consistent messaging across the university. Finally, monitoring activities play a vital role in sustaining momentum, with the Sustainability Committee now to oversee progress in areas like energy and water use, waste reduction, staff well-being, gender inclusion, and governance transparency. Through ongoing collaboration and review, these efforts will guide the preparation of our sustainability report and keep the university aligned with its strategic aspirations. Clearly, linking internal control to effective risk management helps strengthen sustainability efforts and improve institutional practices by aligning its components with our long-term goals. I can see smiling faces because I am now about to close. In closing, as we reaffirm the role of internal control in shaping a resilient and responsible university, let us forthwith embed its guiding principles into our daily operations. By aligning risk management with sustainability and ethical practice, we do more than safeguard our institution. We uphold a culture of integrity, accountability, and continuous improvement. Thank you for listening. I extend my heartfelt thanks to the human intelligence, the individuals who guided this work, Assistant Professor Fermin Yabut, our college secretary, Assistant Dean Francisco M. Caliwan Jr., whose insight shaped the flow of topics, and Mr. Ian Punsalan, who supported the preparation of the slides and the one who manipulated the slides. I also acknowledge the thoughtful assistance of an artificial intelligence, particularly Microsoft Copilot, in enhancing the presentation. As with any tool, using AI wisely requires sound understanding and discernment, an essential part of responsible innovation. Maraming salamat po.
Ang dami po palang risk kapag ikay nagmamahal. Gagawin po natin lahat ng dapat gawin at patuloy na magmamahal. In a special way, we express our heartfelt gratitude to Professor Patricia M. Empleo, PhD, for gracing us with their wisdom and inspiring diskurso. Maraming salamat po. Palakpakan po natin si Ma'am. As we begin this day's activities with a prayer, so shall we end with a prayer. Let us now stand to sing the hymn of the University of Santo Tomas.
Aquinas, majestic, enduring the storms of the ages, shrine of our ancient fathers, carved in the stars' domain. This is the castle Imperius, this is the home of the sages, blessed by the cross of the angels, gift of our mother's pain.
We request the following stakeholders to stay for the photo opportunity with our Mass Presider, our inaugural